Hello everyone, I hope you're taking it easy and your day has been great thus far. For this video we'll be going through an unbagging of Combat Patrol issue 21, and Combat Patrol is for the Warhammer 40,000 setting, all under the whole Warhammer banner. Now this particular issue of Combat Patrol has quasi-recently been released within Australia. In fact, I'm probably an issue or two behind from retail, but I do have a subscription, so I do get my 4 issues in a single hit. So moving through Combat Patrol, previous 20 issues have been very focused, very centric, I guess, on the Space Marine and Tyranid Combat Patrols, which is now pretty much ended for both. Issue 21, and I suspect probably until issue 40, we'll start introducing the Aeldari and the Chaos Space Marines. So here we have issue number 21 with a Aeldari Farseer very front and prominent here, casting whatever type of psychic ability they have. I will admit they do look very, very cool. I'm glad they've gone this particular art style for the Farseer. And here we have at the very bottom the actual Farseer model that is included. So there'll be information about the Farseer, the Eldar as a whole, and the Immaterium, which, you know, is definitely linked back to the Aeldari and Chaos as well. So for this issue, so build and paint will be pretty much for the Farseer from a read perspective. So we know there's that little short section for the Aeldari, as well as the section for the Immaterium, which is basically the warp, and then there'll be a piece of fiction, Mind War, which no doubt will be geared towards the Aeldari Farseer. From a collect perspective, once again, the Farseer there, and then from a play side, behind enemy lines. So, Farseer, how to build, does come on a single small sprue, which we'll look at later on. It's not snap fit. You'll definitely need glue and everything to put the model together, but it pretty much comes together quite nicely. But there is no real customizations with it. It's pretty much going to be in that particular pose, etc. How to paint. There are a few steps. So, base coating with Mephiston Red. Now, I don't know if that's because all Farseer should be in that color. I still feel red is very Simon focused. So, I don't know if this will actually explain which craft world the Aeldari Combat Patrol is leaning towards, but anyway, Mephiston Red base coat, race bone for the inner parts of the robe, and what do we have here? Belts and strings, Abaddon Black for pouches, face mask, the boots, and the hilt of the spear, Corax White for a number of things as well, followed by Screamer Pink on the outside of the robes. So trying to, I guess they're saying either build up some layering and or just add in some extra colour on top of that Mephiston Red. Retributor armour will be quite prevalent here for a lot of these decorations, runes, etc. Followed by Lead Belcher on the actual spear tip itself. Bit more Screamer Pink, bit of Macragge Blue, various Spirit Stones. So work in progress of the actual Farseer. Definitely not too bad for the amount of paints that have been included in Combat Patrol thus far. That is definitely tabletop ready. It does need a little bit more work to be parade ready, but that's definitely not a bad start with what has been made available. Anyway, Aeldari. So information about the actual Aeldari. Back when I started Warhammer, they were still known as the Eldar. I'm not too sure when the Eldar became a bit of a discontinued word and switched that with Aeldari. Similar Drukhari were Dark Eldar back when I started. So we have a nice piece of information there and some short text regarding their advanced technology, obviously the types of wars that they are currently engaged in, the Immaterium, good old warp. So it's nice to have some backstory to that, especially between 1, moving into Aeldari and Chaos, and 2, obviously the Immaterium and the warp still has some prevalence within the Imperium as well. It's still required for travel, the Astronomicon and things like that. and obviously what is within the warp, aka chaos. Mind War, so this is that piece of fiction here. So we have a nice image of a Farseer here and some various Aeldari aircraft. Now this particular Farseer I feel is probably Ulthway, although I cannot tell you off the top of my head if that is the case or if it's just a piece of art. Either way, it does look very cool. So that's a continuation of fiction and just some more art pieces here. In fact, given that that one's gone green, I wonder if that's supposed to be who's green? Alatok, I believe. Has been a while. Collect the Farseer, your typical D6 random generator, and just some deeds and accolades, followed by the datasheet on the back. I did not realize they had 7-inch movement. The more you know. How much of that has carried over into 11th edition, I'm not too sure. Well, actually, I take that back. Most of this has carried over. Some of the keywords may have changed, but to be honest, was it character infantry, cycle, Farseer? Probably not too much has changed. Scenario 17, behind enemy lines. So, we do have a Farseer here. We have some objective markers and termagant spawn points. So, looks like this will be a Aeldari and Tyranid scenario. So there's the deployment, how to win. Aeldari will get turn 1. So there's just a breakdown of each of the phases that the Farseer will go through. The actual example from a map perspective, so that's always nice. Moving on to the Tyranid turn. So it looks like this is when it will start to spawn some termagants. Now, looks like it's individual termagants, not necessarily entire swarms of, so I guess that's actually not too overpowered against the Farseer. Victory conditions for the Eldar and the Tyranids, and then the very last page is a bit of a splash page with the Aeldari and Chaos. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of these models will not be part of the combat patrols. Like, I don't believe the Warp Smith is. But, time will tell. Anyway, back of the issue, what do we have here? Preview for issue 22, which we're already aware of, so we get 2 paints for that, which appears to have on that issue probably a Iandon Farseer of some description. And then issues 23 and 24 will be a duo set. We will get a full squad of Guardians between those 2 issues. So that'll be fun. So that will start fleshing out the Aeldari. Now, as I've mentioned a few times before, for the Aeldari side, I will be pretty much picking a Ulthway craft world. So, see, it shouldn't be too difficult to paint. It's just basically black and bone. But, Anyway, that was issue 21. What else was included? We actually do get a battle mat, either. It'll be 2-sided. It's on decent stock. That doesn't mean abuse it to no end. So one side will have this industrial type basing. The other will be a bit more of a open general, I don't know, just general outdoor look here and there. So it's nice that a mat is included. So obviously, if you want to put this onto a table and get a gauge of how big your map size is, this will be very handy. So that issue did include that. And then lastly, the quote-unquote important part, the actual sprue for the Farseer. Now, unlike previous models, the Farseer will actually come with a molded base. So the Farseer will get to stand on some tactical debris. Otherwise, there's all the components for the Farseer, the spear, obviously the main body, torso, head, etc., the hand. There's the other side of the pieces. Not too much to write home about. Most of the important parts are on this side. But that is cool. So that was the actual sprue for the Farseer. Okay, so that will basically bring us to the end of the page through of issue 21 of Combat Patrol. Looking forward to seeing how the Combat Patrol expands out for the Aeldari. Obviously it's now an extra faction that I haven't delved too much into. I think as far as I've gone, I have actually picked up a Aeldari Combat Patrol, the actual box version. Whether that's the latest iteration, I think it's the latest iteration. The ones in this particular magazine is probably the Combat Patrol Prior, which is fine. It's a nice little variety of Aeldari units. How useful they all are as a army remains to be seen. That's future me problem. Current me's got enough things on its hand. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how this Combat Patrol builds up, and looking forward to when we start seeing the early Chaos Combat Patrol units come into play. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this Patreon unbagging video. Feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe if you enjoyed the content. All of this does help support the channel, and I do appreciate it. There's extra content on my Instagram and the YouTube community tab, so feel free to check out both. They tend to be featuring just work in progress stuff, which may or may not be Warhammer related, but feel free just to see what is happening. It'll provide a bit of insight as to what I'm generally working on, which in the case of YouTube could be some recent unboxings and things like that. With that being said, stay safe and take care, and I'll catch you all in a future video, whether it's issue 22 of Combat Patrol or something else on the channel. See ya.